the Share Your Story series. We come together for this quarterly meetup event where we profile various Black Agilists and thought leaders. And the goal is to tell the stories we don't normally get to hear and to understand each person's Agile journey from a Black Agilist perspective. And we hope by hearing these stories, our Agile community will be able to identify with the storyteller and visualize their own possibilities. So tonight, we are featuring Dr. Dave Cornelius, a business coach, an executive coach, an Agile coach, but also the creator of many, many things. Agile for Humanity Conference, Noel Share podcast. I won't be able to do you justice because there are so many things that you do and do for the community. So I would like you to start by introducing yourself to all of us so we can learn all about your awesomeness.
Well, I could start by telling you, my name is Dr. Dave Cornelius, AKA Dr. Dave. Well, that's my name. And so if you want to know, I grew up on St. Croix in the US Virgin Islands, small island, 90 square miles, and you have the palm trees waving back and forth in the back. And I'm also flagging the United States, the University of the Virgin Islands shirt today, giving them some love. And so growing up on such a small island as a Black man, where you have the governor, senators, teachers, leaders are all Black. And that gives you a tremendous amount of encouragement, right? To be whatever you dream, whatever that comes to mind, those opportunities, because you're probably not limited as much, right? Even though your limit is the edge of the sand, the ability and the encouragement that you get there from all of those people who look like you, it helps to build your confidence and give you that ability to innovate, take risks, try some things, fail at things, and that's okay. And so that has helped me a lot every time I come into different scenarios and situations in the Agile space, or even just the corporate America in essence. I have that confidence that growing up as a young man on a little island is that people have encouraged me, have supported me, and that really matters a lot, and has helped to set the tone in terms of how I navigate corporate America and also just navigate dealing with the Agile community itself. Is that enough as an intro, Nicole?
Absolutely. Although I know there's always 5 Saturdays as well, and I'm sure people want to know about that too.
Oh, so you want me to tell everything? I thought you were going to ask me questions. So.
I'm going to ask you questions too, but I think I was like, I just want you to share a little bit about 5 Saturdays. Okay.
So about 9 years ago, I started the STEM program. I was living in Southern California, and I started this program in LA. I was actually living in Orange County. So I would drive 50 miles each way when I started this program to go into the inner city of LA to teach kids how to code, teach them Agile skills. And how that came about is that, I was working at a client, and another brother was saying like, hey man, how do we get more of our people involved in technology, women? And it's, and he said, how do we get out there? How do you start sharing these skills? So we started that. He had a program going with a church up in Los Angeles, and I went up there and spoke once, and then started a program that would help kids really get involved, with technology and teaching them how to code, teaching them, entrepreneurship, career development. So we built this tremendous curriculum, and it's now one of the Agile Alliance initiative. It's also hailed by the Scrum Alliance as well. But to me, one of the great things that came out of that experience was, President Barack Obama sent me a letter in 2015, just kind of hailing the work that was done in that STEM program. We work with high school students, and just through the partnership and relationships that we've had, now you could go to the number 5saturdays.org, and I put that in the chat as well. And that course, we have digitized the course, make it on demand. So any students anywhere in the world, if they want to learn about coding, they could go in there and register and learn about coding. They want to learn about Agile as a practice, design thinking. So there's several different courses that are built and made available for free, such that how do we scale ourselves and give more back to our community? Well, this is one way that I've discovered that I could use my talents and ability that I use in corporate America and also in universities that I could give back, right?
Nice.
So let me put that in the chat.
Yes. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love 5 Saturdays.
Me too.
So in relation to, getting, young people involved in STEM, how did you get started in IT and what really sparked your interest?
So, I mean, I first heard about, a career in IT. I think it was a junior in high school. Some guy he was an educator, right? He came down from mainland USA and he visited the island of St. Croix. And so he started talking about the possibilities of working in technology. And I mean, I'm a musician also, so I love music. And he started talking about what you could do with a computer with music. And I need to do that. I need to go and learn how to do that. So, after hearing him at that little workshop in high school, I decided, actually declared, I was telling everyone, I'm going to study computer technology, told everyone that I was going to study computer technology in college. And so I finished high school, went off, got a degree in computer science, and worked as a software engineer, and then also did a master's, studied artificial intelligence, did an MBA, and then followed that up with a doctorate in management and org leadership, and emphasis in information systems. So education to me is important, it's foundational, right? My mother was an educator, so that's where a lot of that comes from. And so that's foundational step for me to be able to move forward and get other skills, that was really essential. And so, yeah, I started writing code, and it was something that I was really passionate about. But more important, is being able to pivot and start to become an entrepreneur. I've worked for like Accenture type, they were called Anderson Consulting before they became Accenture. So, I mean, I got a lot of great experience working for a company like that, and having a good educational background and some experience, that really helped a lot. And so that allowed me to travel around the US and learn a lot of different skills. Lived in different part of the US with, because of working for a company like that. And, obviously it's like, you won't walk into a company like that. I keep laughing about this stuff. But, when you're the only person of color in most of the companies that I've worked in throughout my career, it gives you a moment to pause, but it also creates an opportunity for you to think of, how can I help others get in this field? And that's the thing that I'm really interested in, is how do I help others get in this field of coding? And 5 Saturdays is one way. And I think one thing we miss about 5 Saturdays, right? And there's a group of people that we just completely ignore. I ignore them. And so those groups are, what we call the learning facilitators, right? There's the industry professionals who volunteer and learn the curriculum and come and run the workshops during the summer. Those group of people, oftentimes, they're not agilists, they're not software developers, they're not entrepreneurs, they're just people who may be passionate or curious about, the field, but they also have a heart and a willingness to come and give their time, because there's an exchange. They get value of coming. If they come and volunteer with the 5 Saturdays program, the knowledge and experience that they get is synonymous to, it's almost like getting a CSM with experience, because everything is ran in an agile way. It has a backlog, people as a product owner, you're a scrum master, they're practicing agile, while they're learning how to facilitate learning. And so, you know, that is a thing that sometimes we miss. And I've noticed that many people that I've seen in the agile space today, you know, they start off at 5 Saturdays, and now they're working in this industry, you know, Scrum Masters and Agile coaches. You know, so I remember you went back in 2014, it's your the first opportunity, and you knew nothing about it, but look at where you are now. You know, I said, that's so awesome. Thank you for serving, you know, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's dive a little bit into your particular world of Agile coaching. So what exactly about Agile coaching do you find most rewarding?
So I have this mantra, and I said, you know, helping people to achieve awesomeness. And that's the mantra of knowledgeshare.org, you know, and that's my company, my online company, as well as, you know, when I do in-person coaching and training. Just getting that reward of being able to help people find their path forward is really awesome, right? And the fact that you're being able to be a thought partner with leaders, teams, individuals to witness how they progress toward achieving their goal. To me, that's really an awesome thing, right? Because it's not really up to me as a coach to make anyone anything, except that I create space and an opportunity for them to learn and grow and experiment and hold them accountable if they allow me to, right? Because that's an option too. You have to ask permission. So to me, that's the thing about coaching, but also just receiving trust, right? To have someone at the C-level or one of an executive or even you know, a team member being able to share, you know, the struggles and challenges that they're dealing with, right? I mean, it's really hard to be able to come and meet someone that you don't know very well and said, I'm afraid today. I'm afraid because I don't know if I fit in, you know. So all to me, those things are critical and important as a coach. And it's not just agile coaching, because there's agile coaching and then there's professional coaching. So I have blend both worlds, where you take the things that you learn from the International Coaching Federation, ICF, and you bring those skills of as professional coaching in, coupled with what we call agile coaching, which is working with teams and Scrum Masters and product owners and different leaders. But I think most important about coaching is that, you know, I think I have an improved relationship with my family, you know, my son, my wife, people, others that I meet. You know, you have a different context in terms of how you relate to them, empathy, compassion, being a great cheerleader. Like I see Christina Thomas and I'm like, hey, Christina, what's up? You know, and just cheering her. And same thing with you, Nicole and CP, you know, is being able to be a cheerleader for others who are participating in the process, who's on a journey, right? And it's part of this system that we're in, that we're trying to change the way we work. But I think more importantly is how to change the way we relate, right? I think us. And I talk about that a lot I did a podcast during the pandemic, like for a whole year or a year and a half, I interviewed every Black person who was an Agilist throughout the world. You know, Nicole, you were one of those people who shared your story. And so I spoke to people in Nigeria, in South Africa, in the Middle East, people in Canada, throughout the US, to find out about social justice and agility and how the barriers to entry, the opportunities, the things that we should be able to step into and do well with. And so, you know, if you get a chance, if you go to the Agile Alliance, it's under their webcast on the agilealliance.org website. Feel free to go out there and listen to some of the stories of some of the men and women who are participated, who are courageous enough to share their stories, to just lean in and share their stories, because some of it were people were able to be vulnerable. And to me, that's the trust of coaching, right? to allow people to be vulnerable with you. And I remember one person said, I have never talked about the challenges that I've had in society, as a person of color, or even another person who's not a person of color, said that as well. Putting their business out on the streets is what we would say, right? Put their
Mhm.
business out in the street, but it's creating that space to have that level of trust, so that it is okay. So check that out. I think you'll get a lot out of it. And I think I spoke to 21 or 31 people, a lot of different folks, people that, who's listening to this conversation right now would know.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever you have a chance, if you have the link, we'll definitely share that link with folks so they
Yeah.
can listen in as well. Because I think it was um, a great series, and I listened to. I don't think I listened to every single one, but I listened to a lot of them.
Yeah.
Ah, so for your particular Agile journey, um, what would you say was your biggest challenge that you faced?
Oh, my particular journey. I started out in this industry, and I was fortunate, right? I'll say I was fortunate. I was an enterprise architect. I was already working in technology, right? So in essence, the door was kind of already open because I was already working in that space. Um, I would say sometimes when I think about the challenge, it's about building a brand, right? That people would take seriously. Even though I have the credentials and the education and the experience, because like I said, I started out as a skeptic about agility, and I was convinced after spending some time, and this is like 20 years ago, 22 years ago, that I started, we started this journey as a huge financial company, and we shifted the way we work and outpaced a company like Deloitte, right? There was like a team of about 12 to 15 of us, and we kind of started doing this agile thing and experimenting, and it worked out really well because we were able to get things done well. Our communication between each other, the trust, transparency, all of the goodness that comes with building products and within a system, we're working with clients, we're able to get that done without a bunch of documentation and things like that. So that was really beneficial. But when we talk about the agile journey in terms of having presence, um, being able to speak at conferences and things like that, building a brand is really hard, right? Because I think when I started out, the only person that I really see, and I only heard of him, was Devon Morris, right?
Mhm.
Devon and Lizzie, and there were a couple other people, but not very many. As we go to conferences, and if any of you get to go to conferences, you would see there's not a lot of representation in this space
Yep.
at all. Not as speakers, not as thought leaders, and if you are, you probably won't get as much love as you think that you should. So that has been one of the challenge. But like I said, growing up on an island where I was encouraged to take risk and encouraged to get up when you fall, I had no problems, being able to walk in those scenarios and share my experience, share my thoughts, and start to build different relationships. Even though they were transactional in nature, it was still a way in. And the point is that it's okay, even if you're not heralded as some great agilist in the space. You could still build your presence there, as a thought leader, as someone who could contribute in many different ways, just being very thoughtful about that. So that has been my journey, and it's been, like I said, it's been over 20 years, so been around for a long time. And I've seen the shifts and change, and people come and Nicole, when I saw you, for the first time, like, yes, cheering you on. I saw Lizzie, right? We have
Yeah.
April,
Hmm.
and so I begin to think, Kemi Raji, there are all these other
Hmm.
people that I've met over the years. And I'm really excited to see that, really to see that there's a change,
Indeed, indeed. I'm excited as well. And so I'm just as excited as you for the next group that are coming up and sprouting and spreading their wings so we can help
Yes,
them fly.
yes,
So,
yes, yes.
and who knows?
Nicole,
Yes.
we do have a question in the chat from what Dr. Dave was talking about earlier, the
Okay.
stories of color from the Agile Alliance website, and they
Mhm.
wanted confirmation on whether that was the link that you were talking about.
No, let's see. I'll do this really quickly because I know where it is.
Okay.
You could keep talking,
Yeah.
and I'll respond as well.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah. And if anybody else has any other questions, feel free.
I just wanted to ask where Dr. Dave grew up because he said island, and I was like, island for a second.
Oh, you missed the first part.
I
Yeah,
did.
I grew up in St. Croix.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah,
Yay.
I know you're from JA, so
Yeah,
Yes.
I am.
JA representing.
That's
No,
right.
it's funny because I wanted to just add to that because I think you're right. Well, I know for me in terms of growing up in Jamaica and being in my formative adult years there, it has helped me to kind of keep going. And I think maybe just either is because of coming from an island where we were the majority in terms of color, where you never give up, you just keep
Yeah.
going no matter what. If a door is closed, you keep going. And I can say that made a difference in terms of, for me, in terms of working in the context in the UK, where I literally just go, okay, this opportunity may not work, but no matter what, you don't stop.
Yeah.
Exactly. It seemed like the Agile Alliance website isn't really working for some reason. I don't know why. I've tried it.
There are a couple, something must be going on today because I had problems with Meetup earlier. So who knows?
Yeah. So there too many redirects. So it looks like they're being hacked. Sorry
Oh
to say.
no.
Yeah. Oh no. But keep
Yeah, I
on.
was gonna say,
I'll find a link.
I was finding that Jira was very slow today. I don't know if anybody else noticed that. So
Yeah.
see if there is a problem. I guess I had a question for you, Dr. Dave, in terms of your reference to your own personal journey and being a cynic, and then sort of transitioning or sort of turning that around. Can you share a little bit about what helped you to make that shift?
Certainly. So I know the question is, what helped me to make that shift and change my perspective? Sorry for reframing your question, but seeing is believing, right? Seeing is believing, and when you're able to go through that journey, walk through that fire and build something with a group of people and do it in a successful way, and people are going like, yeah, more of that, do more of that, you certainly will change your perspective, because the context of back then as an enterprise architect was more waterfall, right? Build stuff, you design it, you design it before you even try to code it, and then when you're done you test it. And so I'll get to UAT, that model. So it's certainly different to be able to be working in these small 2-week chunks and doing these small increments of value, where you're able to show a client, and they don't exist anymore, right? They got acquired. Washington Mutual Financials is what, they're a huge bank at the time during the .com
Yes, I remember
era,
that.
right? You remember Washington Mutual? Yeah. So, building a system for them and being able to turn that around in these short increments of value that they were seeing, and being able to get more work out of it beyond a company like Deloitte, who has an army of people, right? That is that's a great story, right? I mean, that should shift your confidence and your focus. This works. And I've tried it at several other places after that. It's like, wow, this really works. I want to do more of this. And I actually would like to have less of people beat me over the head and setting false expectations and creating, opportunities for failure in a way that it's not healthy, right? It's opportunity for failure when you have to go before a group of people where we and here's the rag, red, amber, green. It's like, I'm not really interested in that. I'm more interested in finding a way of how do we bring a group of people together that we could bond and trust each other and build great stuff, right? And do it over and over and over again, right? And have fun doing it while we're in the process of doing that. So that's what caused, that has helped the shift, because I saw the results. I saw the results firsthand. I didn't have to read about it because I lived it. So that was the difference for me.
Thanks. I see Christina has her hand up.
Yeah, I do. I have my hand up. I had a question just in terms of, so it does have to do with kind of a bit of the cynic comment. But for me, well, no, the reason why I say it is because, so I've kind of gone through where I see the value overall in terms of Agile, all of the different frameworks and the tools. But what I have found, which has, to me, my cynicism, is literally around all of the voices in terms of who the thought leaders are, that the thought leaders tend to be all the same. And everybody, so as you know, in terms of my talk, I'm focused on people being able to find their own voice and to I consider it noise. And I say noise because I have a certain amount of years of experience. And I find that if you enter the Agile community, let's say you're a complete newbie and you don't have a certain years of experience, it can be really destabilizing that you're going to all of these things and everybody's like, oh, well, guess what? What you're going to be judged on now, it's dependent on, certain kind of gatekeepers determining whether you have the right mindset. And I have gone to interviews where I'm literally like, yeah, just a Black female and 3 white guys interviewing me, and really good interview and stuff, but they're like, oh, we don't really think you have the kind of amount of experience. And I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. But in my background, I'm just like, I've worked years in telco and so on. So my cynicism around kind of the Agile community a bit has to do with a little bit of the sameness in terms of who the speakers are, a little bit of the sameness of whose ideas are valued a bit more than others. And I'm not quite sure how that cynicism will be changed, because from what I've been seeing, and I also find it very interesting that, the women in Agile, we get boxed into this little space where it's kind of like, oh, guess what? The women in Agile, they're going to have a specific speaking section. And then, it's just hair. But like, if you get to the overall conference track, it's still just a smaller number of women who have been in the game for a very long time and are published and kind of had that validation. So my cynicism is not necessarily around the tools. I completely see the value in the frameworks and how it can work as a team, but it's a cynicism around what everybody, in terms of who all of the thought leaders are, and everybody's voice who's valued a little bit more. And I consider it a little bit of noise if you're just starting your journey and you don't kind of have the confidence to go, hey, all of the thought processes and things that I'm having, I'm totally, my thoughts and ideas are totally valid in terms of putting myself forward as a speaker. And there are not a lot of people who will go, I'm going to put myself forward as a speaker to do a lightning talk yet, because everybody else is telling them they're not ready.
So I want to, I want to validate and acknowledge you for taking that risk, right? For stepping in. But I think the pandemic, COVID-19, has created a space and opportunity for us to lean into, right? Agile In Color didn't exist prior to the pandemic. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
The Melanated Action Society didn't exist before the pandemic. You know, Agile for Humanity has been around longer, but it shifted the pivot that said, let's be more focused on, you know, African Americans, people of color, and women. Create a space. You know, I think we have to really lean into the pioneering spirit of our ancestors and be willing to take some risks, right? Go where we're not seen or even accepted. You know, go and work on your craft by volunteering at meetups and conferences, speak, help, support. I mean, I did that in my early days. I volunteered at conferences, spoke at a lot of local meetups, build my skills. I even joined Toastmasters, worked on my speaking craft, being able to deliver. So I don't want to wait for anyone to hand me anything. You know, I don't want to wait for someone to come and go like, oh, I'll pour you here. No, I don't have to do that. You know, I'm leaning into my ancestors and saying like, hey man, I am fully capable, right? And fully able to do anything that I choose to, anything that I want to put my effort and energy into. I'm fully capable of doing that. So why do I need to wait for, you know, this person or that person to validate me? You know, I think we could validate us, right?
Exactly.
I agree with you on that. So
Yeah.
I just want to say, in terms of, from my cynicism, in terms of that framework, it's not a cynicism that's causing any paralysis for me. But for me, I think about the other persons who don't have that mindset of, no matter what, I'm going to put myself forward and get what. If I get not accepted for that talk, I keep going because I have confidence in the belief that, hey, I will find that space. So I completely agree with absolutely everything that you're saying.
Yeah, keep on doing it. That's what I say. You know, I'm sure other people, because we've published your talks, you know, other people have seen you, and there'll be more opportunities. But this is the stuff that I'm talking about. You know, you decided to take a risk, came into this small conference. We make sure everyone gets to see and hear you, right? Create a platform where now, oftentimes you may not have a recording of yourself, but now you have a recording of a great 10-minute speech that you probably have gone and made it longer. And I see you. I've been watching you on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I see you.
I did a 5-minute one as well. But
there you go.
I just want, no, but I just, like, for me, I just want other people who, when they start in the community, that somehow they get to the realization that, you know, they completely belong and that they can find their own voice. And go to all of the meetups, go to that, but don't become paralyzed by going to all of the meetups. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to kind of get to that point. But, you know, I keep going no matter what. For me, I'm just like, it doesn't matter. I can be called a magician. I don't really care. It doesn't have to have an agile label on it.
Keep on keeping on is what I say.
and find your tribe.
That's right.
Because you always are going to need them to help you up on those times when, you know, you just can't do yourself, or like, especially for new folks, you know, they definitely need to be welcomed. So I'm a strong believer in welcoming them whenever I can. So
yes, and I say we have to keep making these creating these different communities, the Agile In Color, the Agile for Humanity, the Melanated Action Society. You know, these are the three that I know of, but, you know, at least there's three. When I started, there was 0.
Yeah.
So 3 is better than 0, in my opinion. So keep on keeping on.
And I will also add, there's Agile Caribbean link too. So
oh, that's right. Yes.
They're
yes.
there. All right. I see Alex has his hand up.
So a couple of things. I would love the information on Agile Caribbean link. I don't think I've heard of that one before, because one of my questions always in spaces like this is, what other pockets of POC Agilists are people aware of? But there's also something that I'm super curious about. I think Christina and Dr. Dave are both talking about a certain type of resiliency and persistence that's necessary, right? When you don't have a lot of models, you don't have a lot of role models in the space, then it does take a certain amount of persistence or resiliency to stay in a space, right? It's not easy, and that's not accessible for a lot of people. It's elusive for a lot of folks, especially early in career. I agree, Christina, with everything you were saying in that regard. One of the things that keeps occurring to me, and I think it's a thing, and I'm trying to figure out how to do a talk or a presentation or something, but I'm just going to keep talking about it until I figure it out. One of the principles of Agile, one of the I think unspoken premises are in the Agile manifesto that manifests in a lot of the frameworks is the presumption that everyone comes and, given the space, will speak their truth and advocate for themselves and say all the things and share their opinions, et cetera, et cetera. And that is so often not true for marginalized people for all the reasons. And it's this blind spot, I think, that a lot of established Agilists have. And I'm trying to figure out how to talk about this, or how to like bring this out in a way that we can all kind of tease it apart a little bit, to say, okay, it's great to walk into a team and say, hey, great, we're doing Agile, so everyone can just have their voice. But that's not enough all the time. And when you're dealing with certain folks, it's not enough just to say that. The more has to be done to make it actually work. But I don't know if either of you have seen a talk done about this. I feel like it deserves to be brought into the spotlight a little bit more. And I'm sharing it because it sounds a lot like what y'all are talking about right now.
Well, it's covered in the podcast that I did. It's called Sharing BIPOC Stories on the Agile Alliance website. So I met, like I said, with many different Agilists and who have shared the story and the challenges that they've had, barrier to entry. But I would like to say it's not because it's written in a piece of paper that it means that it's accessible, right? I mean, we if you live in the United States, we have great Constitution, Bill of Rights, and all of that. Even though it's written there, doesn't mean that all of it is accessible, right? And so the thing is, my encouragement to you, Alex, is to put together a talk, come to a meetup and do a small talk about it. Maybe, even now, just having exchanges is one way to come up with ideas of how you could present that, because it's a thing. And we're all aware it's a thing. Matter of fact, the Agile Alliance is aware it's a thing. I spoke with their president the other day, and, their director, and they're aware of it as being a thing. It's why they, what was the thing that April led? Something about, April led a series during the pandemic.
Yes, it was about growing racial equity.
Growing racial equity. So it's go back and listen to some of that stuff. Go back and listen to Sharing BIPOC Stories, because that followed right after growing equity, as a longer term series of conversation. And everyone is talking about this, and everyone is trying to fix this. But sometimes you have to fix yourself and create space for yourself and others to be able to thrive, right? So that is always like my encouragement when I see people doing stuff. So keep on keeping on. How can I help? And if I'm able to help, then I'm willing to do that. So, for example, I know that they have the scholarship stuff coming up for Agile Alliance, and I think I don't know if it's part of Agile In Color. There's another thing, but they asked, well, would you be a sponsor? I said, sure. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, right? And come in and be a sponsor for that very specific area, because we're talking about people of color, right? And creating a space and opportunity. I feel blessed to be able to do that. But it's that kind of actions that's required, right? I mean, to bring about change, it's taking some of those risks and going, okay, I'm going to try. I'll do this, because it will come back. And even if it just helps one person, right, to come to that conference and to be encouraged to grow in whatever capacity and capabilities that they have. I mean, to me, check mark. That's beautiful for me.
And are you going to be at Agile 2022?
No, I'm taking a summer vacation. So I said I'm at work. I'm taking a summer vacation. I'm not going to any conference. Matter of fact, I'm not even doing any Agile for Humanity meetups until September. I'm taking a whole summer off.
I was gonna offer to buy you a beer, man.
Well, I will be
Next
there,
time.
Alex.
You
So
can buy Nicole a beer
All right,
for me.
Nicole, I'll buy
I'll
you
be
a drink.
there.
I'll buy
And
you a
there-
drink, Nicole.
And there will be a few of the Agile in Color core team members who will be there as well. So, get the money out. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
And
We'll be happy.
Alex, I would just add that I just added you on LinkedIn. If you ever want to chat about what your workshop idea might be, I'm happy to give you my insights on what I've been thinking about. Because yeah, at the moment, I'm just like anybody who has an idea of actually talking about these things, and we're not kind of just assuming a bunch of stuff would be awesome for me too.
Yes.
I could see, co-presenters in a topic here. I could see that happening.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, just let us know if you need a platform. We have meetups and meetup connections, so we can make it happen. All right, we're getting down to our last little bit of time, so I'm gonna try to slip in a couple more questions for Dr. Dave. So we have talked a little bit about barriers and some of the issues that Black Agilists and people of color have entering the Agile community. Now, what would you say for how would you basically how would you have tech companies create equity for Black and people of color Agilists who are people of color to accelerate their career path?
There's a lot of tech companies who are trying, right? And they're trying it under the DEI banner. So, you see a lot of the large works who are doing that, the Microsofts, the Googles who are trying it. And I see even a company like GM Financials, who's also working really diligently to bring more equity and more opportunities. But I think it's really all about giving people a chance, right? Giving people an opportunity, and instead of always just looking for more of the same, why don't we do something different this time? And not only just do something different, but how do we start building more of a partnership that when that person come into that company, they have a partner, someone to walk with, maybe for the first 90, 180 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
An opportunity for them to learn and grow and feel comfortable in the culture. Because oftentimes, being the only one is really hard, right? It's really difficult.
Yeah.
So that's some of the things that I would like to see more companies do, and companies are trying that. But also I give the company some work to do, but also give us some work to do.
Right.
We have to be willing to, invest some time and energy into our own selves and into our own learning, right? To go and, if there's a free webinar or conference or a meetup, that we step into those and get those experience, start to hear different things that we may not know about, right? And start to learn about. So I think it's a balance of two things. And then I think the third thing is that we all need to start creating, become entrepreneurs, start creating some tech companies of our own. And I know it's not easy to do. Trust me, I've been at it for a minute now, so I know it's not easy to do. But how can we collaborate and come together and build, an entity where we could hire more folks, right? Because we keep depending on someone else to, open the door for us. Shit, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? That's
Right.
my question. I know we can. And I'm going to to talk about Barack Obama, like, yes, we can, right? Or Cesar Chavez, si se puede, right? So it's like, I know we can. We just have to be willing to put that energy in, and that's what it's going to take, right? For us to get forward, for us to grow forward.
Right. Indeed. Indeed. The gauntlet has been laid down by Dr. Dave. We are going to pick it up.
Well, you know, let's do it. Let's do it together, right? Let's do it together.
Yes. All right. So can you tell me like maybe 3 Black Agilists you know who are doing amazing things right now?
Yeah,
And
I mean, we'll call.
Oh,
before you do that, I wanted to let you know there is a question, hand is raised.
oh, I saw, sorry, Lisa. Lisa, I'll let you go first and then I'll follow up with my question.
Yeah. Can't hear Lisa.
I know. I can't hear you, Lisa.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. So I actually wanted to share that I'm a marketer for most of my career, and I had to fall out of love with marketing in order to fall in love with Agile. And I share that because the notion of business agility continues to oscillate. And actually, I attended the Business Agility Conference recently in New York in March, late March. So Dr. Dave, I'm curious about your perspective because I know you just mentioned the whole notion of focus on technology, but wondering, are you personally starting to see it spread? And, you know, assuming that that's a good thing. So wanted to hear your thoughts.
I mean, in terms of seeing people of color get more in technology, yeah. And not only just technology, the other thing I talked about is entrepreneurship, right? And it doesn't have to, you know, technology is the bedrock that enable us to go faster. But what I'm talking about is that I see more and more people are getting involved in technology in the companies that I walk into. It seems like the millennials have figured it out that it's okay for them to lean in a little bit and get those skills, right? So I'm seeing that shift taking place, but I think it's not enough yet, right? I mean, it's taken a while. It's kind of like, you know, having the first, you know, Black president in 2008. It took a while to get there, and we, you know, so it's going to take some energies and effort and building up of skills and capabilities to start to see a bigger shift, right? And it's going to take groups like this coming together and creating space, you know, for people to speak, to share, to become thought leaders. You know, so that's the encouragement that we have to get involved with.
But I guess I was also curious about the notion of business agility. So, you know, are you seeing that growth?
Well, so companies are trying, right? Because to me, business agility means nothing more than optimize the whole. And I'm just using a lean term, right? Optimize the whole enterprise beyond IT, right? And so companies are trying to get there, but it's not that easy. You're not going to get a CPA or someone working in finance to automatically change the way they work to, you know, use a framework like Scrum or Kanban, right? It takes time for them to feel comfortable that they could achieve the same goals. So I see some companies who are doing it, and they're struggling, but it's not a thing that it's not like Scrum, is what I'm saying, you know. And even if someone dropped like Agile in HR, even though people are trying to adopt those things, Agile in marketing, it's not widespread as they've done in technology, right? And it's because until you start seeing lots of success, that's when people will pivot. You've had lots of success and failures in technology. So people are pivoting because there's actual evidence that that exists, that works, right? So until we could see more of that, more success in HR, more success in finance, right? Even in marketing, right? Then you would start to see more adoption, right? And more comfort with it. So
Hope that answered your question, Lisa.
yeah, I hope so.
Yes, yes, and definitely. And it's actually an area that I'm trying to lean in toward. I mean, right now I'm in technology, but you know, given the depth of my marketing background, and I've been aligned with some people in the agile marketing space. And so, kind of to your point earlier about establishing a brand, I'm thinking that that's going to be my shtick, if you will, so that I'm marrying the two, and really looking to solve very classic marketing problems using agile frameworks.
Do it.
Awesome.
Go get it.
Yeah.
Yes. Blaze the trail.
Yeah.
At least trying.
All right, we're gonna have Dr. Dave answer my previous question, and then I got one more, and then we're gonna wrap. So,
Okay.
Back to what I was asking before about.
3 Black Agilists.
Yeah.
So Devon and Lizzie Morris, I'm just putting them as one. Itopa Sule, you know, I love it. Itopa. Kemi Raji, Nicole Spence-Goon.
Okay, you're going past 3 now.
Christina Thomas. I mean, I could keep going, but you know, I wanted to like, you know, give you all some love since you're here. But there are some people that I think that are doing really good stuff out there, you know, at the top of their game.
Yes.
And there are others, right?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, Alex says he needs a spelling for Ima's name. So we
What,
can
for
connect.
Itopa or?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll drop in the chat.
Yeah. And as you're doing that, as we wrap up, I'm just gonna ask, is there anything else we didn't cover that you want everyone to know about you or about your experience?
Besides, you know, getting a wonderful letter from President Barack Obama, I mean, to me, that was like the highlight. You know, it's like a highlight of my neighbor. It was really interesting watching the mailman come in with this big smile on his face. I wasn't home. My wife called me and told me that, you know, this guy was so excited because I got a letter from the White House. You know, so that was a big deal for me. And it was early in the journey of 5 Saturdays. So that kind of like the energy, right, and confidence that brought was really amazing. So I've written 3 books, and they're published on Amazon and Kindle, Audible, and print. Just look for Dave Cornelius and they'll probably pop up. I'm currently wrapping up my 4th book called Belonging and Healing. And so I should have that released sometime by the end of June sometime. And my 5th book, I actually started writing this book in 2019. It's called Deliver Value, but I was supposed to deliver it in 2020, but then COVID happened. So made radical changes to that book. And so I should deliver that in late 2022. So those are the 2 things that I'm working on right now, is trying to get those 2 books out and get them into publication. And you know, we're going to try and do Agile for Humanity face-to-face next year. I just want to let you know that. So we're going to kick off we're going to try next February during Black History Month. We're going to do Agile for Humanity, where hopefully we could get to meet each other and break bread and have conversation, laugh, you know, dance, you know, all of that goodness that we like to do. So that's my great hope for right now.
Awesome. Well, that's a lot. I mean, books abound. Everybody needs to go and check him on Amazon and find all of his books, and we need to promote that, you know, as well. So I would just like to say Thank you, Dr. Dave, for speaking with us, sharing with us today, telling us your stories, sharing your knowledge and wisdom, continuing to create community, all of these things. We really appreciate you and cheer for you as you keep doing it. So we are here for you as much as you are here for us, and we'll keep that going for sure. So
Thank you. Thank you. The same thing to you, Nicole, and everyone else who is, on here today. Keep doing it, man. Let's all keep working together and keep helping each other to go further, right? There's this African proverb, right? And because one in my book, Belonging and Healing, I'm writing a section about Ubuntu, right? And Ubuntu is the South African proverb about us seeing ourselves as human beings through others as well, through the eyes of other people. And their proverb is, if this is common, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So just leaning into those principles, we want to go far, so let's go together, right? And let's practice the principle of Ubuntu, which will help us in the long run. So with that, I say thank you and have a great evening and a great weekend.
Yes, you do as well. And everybody here, feel free to connect with me or with Dr. Dave or with each other on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Because that is the only way we'll keep community together and to grow the community as well. So
yeah,
thank you all for coming out tonight. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.